Welcome to Playing Above the Line, where we interview entrepreneurs, business owners, and community activists to get their thoughts and perspectives on leadership. Playing Above the Line is sponsored by Aviso Group, a business consulting and accounting firm focused on preparing clients for the future through innovation and positive growth. Welcome to another edition of Playing Above the Line. I'm Alan, your host, and we are recording today at Hatch in downtown Fairhope, and we appreciate Rick Miller opening up his space to us until our studio over at Coastal Alabama gets ready. Well, it's ready actually, Carrie, but the whole COVID thing's got us kind of shut down. So anyway, but we're glad to be here. So if you want to check out what Rick and those guys do at Hatch, you can go to hatchfairhope.com. So our guest today is Sydney Wasdin, and she is the owner and founder of True Yoga and Therapy. And Sydney, we appreciate you being here.
I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
So let me ask you this, and so this immediately caught my eye. I just sent my daughter to Auburn. She's a freshman. Mm-hmm. My son is a junior there. So far, she's been there for a week, and she's living her best college life right now. She is having a great time. Of course, classes haven't started yet, so she's living the college dream up there, so she's having a great time. And while at Auburn, you got your master's in clinical mental health counseling.
I did.
Okay, how do you get from having a master's in counseling to opening a yoga studio? And I know that's not all you do. I mean, you do therapy there as well, but what was that journey like?
That's a great question. So when I was in undergrad still, so I was getting my bachelor's in psychology, and then I also have a bachelor's in French. So I got two while I was there. I also got my yoga instructor certification, and that's just a basic 200-hour RYT. And then when I started teaching classes, I realized that I could give people a little bit of therapeutic benefit through those classes, and I started diving into more of the science behind yoga and the science that connects with psychology as well. I continued doing that throughout my grad school career, and then while I was in grad school, I was able to do a yoga therapy mixture group with clients at East Alabama Medical Center in the long-term psychiatric unit for adolescents only. And I realized there that there was a lot of therapeutic benefit in inpatient populations as well as for people at large to promote health and then also help treat disorder as well. Yeah. So from there, I decided to do my own thing and open my own place where I could do the best of both worlds. Yeah,
that's great. Well, I've heard of yoga. You know, I know that producer Carrie is a student of yours. She goes to your yoga classes, and she has great things to say about that. So I'm going to try it one day, maybe. But I know, right? But explain to me the benefits of yoga. What is it exactly? And look, I think more and more people are kind of getting drawn to yoga. And what is it about it that you think draws people to it? And what is it in its basic forms? So
a lot of people in the Western world are really drawn to yoga for fitness benefits, and it does help with flexibility and range of motion and a lot of the things that you really need in athletics and to keep a healthy physical body. However, it is a lot more than that. It does incorporate meditation and breathing exercises, which are known to have a lot of great benefits for mental health as well as physical health. It's probably why your doctor recommends most likely to do yoga. A lot of people have that recommendation, and it's more of a lifestyle practice, really. It's a way of being and a way of seeing the world that is completely different. It's a mindful way of living, whereas normally we're just kind of living on autopilot and going through the motions. So really then it's more than just a 30-minute class twice a week. It's got to be like a lifestyle. Yeah. That's correct. Yeah. That is interesting to me. So I firmly believe that there are certain vocations and things that people do for a living that are true callings, and I think that what you do as a therapist is truly that, and you've had a varied background in what you do. So, I mean, have you always been drawn to helping people? What was the genesis of your desire to get a degree in psychology and then a master's in counseling? You know, it is very much a calling, and honestly, since my earliest ages, I've always been told that I've been the helper. I've always been helping people and helping others, even from when I was a baby and wasn't actually intending to do it. And then in high school, actually early on in my freshman year, I found psychology and developed a whole new love for it. And it really started with figuring out how to help teenagers just like me that I was friends with as a peer, obviously, at that point. And then I was fortunate that Bayside actually offered a psychology class for sophomores, or actually I think you were supposed to be a junior to take it, but they let me take it as a sophomore. And from there, it kept on, and I knew that I wanted to be a therapist. You've worked with adolescents before. What is the mental state of our younger generation today overall, do you think? And what effect has social media had on that? So I see it with my children every day. They're just inundated with different things, both good and bad, with Snapchat and Facebook and Instagram and that kind of thing. How has that affected our adolescents' mental health, do you think? That is a great question and a great point. Social media is kind of a new variable in the mental health field, and we're still kind of studying its effects really on things. So far, research has shown that it hasn't had the best effects on mental health,
Yeah, no joke.
especially of the younger generation and also my own generation, the millennials. Instagram, I believe, is actually the one that has the worst effect on mental health. Fun fact, which it's unfortunate because I actually love Instagram, but the sad reality is that, or not really sad, it's just a reality. Social media is now a part of our world and we have to adapt to it as it kind of adapts to us and what we need as well. So it is a part of our world, and it started out in more of a negative fashion, I would say, but I think that it does hold a lot of power to do a lot of good and influence in really positive ways as well. Yeah. So we kind of have to learn ourselves and do better as a society to promote that through social media and watch what we're actually posting and what we're perpetuating when we decide to post something.
Yeah, no doubt. That's a good point. And I'm assuming you use social media in your endeavor, marketing and that kind of thing. Is that right?
I do. Yeah. It's a great marketing platform, as you know as well. And it does help meet the younger generation where they are too. And a lot of my information I really want to get out to the younger generation and also parents my age and older as well.
Well, there hasn't been, I don't think, I'm going to say advertising, but it's more than that. But I mean, really a marketing tool that can reach so many people that's really free. It costs your time, but I mean, Facebook and Instagram and Snapchat, I mean, all those things are free for folks to use as they please. And so I think that's one of the benefits. And there are some things that are drawbacks as well. But I think someone in your position that has a business, it's a great way to get the word out. So, all right, let's talk about leadership. That's why we're here. So give me your definition of a leader. When I say leader or leadership, what do you think?
There are a lot of things that make a leader, but one of the most important ones I feel is encouraging other people and being there as a guide for other people to help them pursue their dreams as well and do the best that they can and be the best person that they can be.
Right. And one of the things that we asked you to list a few little bullet points as far as your thoughts on leadership, and one of the things that you mentioned was leading by example. And so being that example obviously is important.
That is correct. In mental health, we like to call that modeling.
Yeah, okay.
So you are actually modeling appropriate or acceptable behavior to other people and trying to be a role model and an example for how you should act in a positive way. And really providing a positive example for others.
Yeah, I agree. And this is interesting, and this word has never come up. We've done 90-something episodes now, I think, and we ask for some qualities that you think someone needs to be a good leader, and grit caught my eye. So, I mean, what about grit? What is that quality that you think needs to come through?
Grit is kind of the rough and tumble way of saying resilience. So it is your ability to undergo trial and tribulation and still prevail through it and actually be better for it. And also to help lead others through the fire and the turmoil as well, coming out better on the other side of it and never stopping no matter what comes up.
Yeah, that's great. And curiosity. You said that curiosity is important. Are you a naturally curious person?
I'm a very naturally curious person, and that's something that got on my parents' nerves quite a lot growing up because I always wanted to know why. Yeah. And a lot of times I got because I said so, which did not satisfy my intellectual curiosity whatsoever. Yeah. Curiosity is very important because to me it also speaks for a love of learning, and it's also important to acknowledge that we're always learning. Everyone is always growing, and it doesn't matter if you're 5 years old or 85 years old, you are always learning, and that's something that I think we as adults tend to forget a lot.
The term lifelong learner I've heard used before, and it sounds like that's what you're referring to. But I believe, and I think you would agree, that in order to be a good leader, you got to be willing to learn every day. If you think that you know everything, then I think, number one, you're not really self-aware. And then number two, I don't think you're going to be a very effective leader going forward. So I think that's great. Talk about SMART goals, because that's something that as an organization, Advisor Group, we're real big believers in SMART goals. Can you explain what SMART goals are?
So SMART goals are goals that you set for yourself that are specific, they are measurable, they are attainable, realistic, and they are also time specific. As clear as you can get on your goals, the better off you'll be.
That's good. And when you were describing that in your show prep material that you sent us, you said that they had to be aligned, SMART goals. So what is the importance of alignment in your goals? I think I know what you're going to say, but I'll be interested to hear what your response is.
So yes, you do need to have goals that do represent your own values as well, and living according to those values, which a big part of that is also your own identity. So what is important to you? Who are you as a person? How can you use your strengths to help you achieve your goals? And what impact can that have on the world at large?
Right. And another point I think that can be made is that your goals need to be aligned among your team, right? If I have my goals and you have your goals and we're on the same team, but they're going in separate directions, that ain't cool. So that's not going to be productive for anybody. So I think that's a great point. Let me ask you this, and this was interesting. We asked you who a leader is that you admire, and you didn't really give us a name. But I loved your response. I'm going to let you expand on this, but one of the little sentences in your response was, there's nothing wrong with admiration, but it tends to be more productive to focus on being the best you can be. I love that. Talk about that.
It is very, very important to acknowledge that no one is perfect. Even the people that we do tend to idealize or admire, hold to the highest standard. They are still people just like you and I, and no one's perfect. So we don't want to hold ourselves to an unrealistic standard that's back to the A or attainable in SMART goals. It needs to be more realistic. And all of these famous celebrities and historical figures that we tend to idolize, they weren't what society actually tries to make them out to be either.
Right.
Like, they're still people. So we set ourselves up for failure if we don't remember that.
Well, it kind of gets back to the old social media trap, right? I mean, the old Instagram trap where I look at your life on Instagram and it's perfect. And it makes me feel bad about myself because your life is so perfect, but that's not the reality. And we all know that that's not the reality. And so I think the comparison game is dangerous. And I think that's the point that you're making is, if there's a leader that I admire, that's fine. But if I try to compare myself to him or her, and if I try to copy what that person does or how they act or try to be who they are, then that's not effective.
And it's also not you. So it's important to be authentic and acknowledge that everyone's different, and what's best for you and what your best is not necessarily going to be a photocopy of the person next to you. And the same thing goes for me. Yeah.
That's a great point. I love that. So let's talk about mentors for a minute. One of the things that you mentioned was supporting and encouraging others to pursue their dreams, and that's what a mentor does, right? In its most basic sense. So have you had a mentor that you can point to that's had an effect on you and your journey?
I've had many, many, many mentors.
Okay.
I guess it kind of starts with my mom and also my mom's boss. From them, from a very early age, I learned about leadership and a lot about business, a lot about caring for others and helping the community. From there, I had several in college. I've had yoga instructors who were mentors who helped train me to be who I am as a yoga instructor and also as a yoga therapist. I've had psychologists who have been mentors to me that I've worked under. Even in my postgraduate fellowship in Atlanta, I had the pleasure of working with an amazing neuropsychologist as well as other counseling psychologists and clinical psychologists there. And every step in the journey, you learn something new and different along the way, and that ultimately shapes you into the person that you are and the person that you become.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, where does the entrepreneurial spirit come from? Because you've started your own business, so whether you think you are or not, you're an entrepreneur. There's no doubt about it. So where do you think that comes from, or do you know?
I think it's something that's always been there. I was always kind of an independent thinker, and I was fortunate to have some teachers that also encouraged that along the way. I would have to say the drive and the ambition most likely was there, but it was also very heavily motivated by my mom as well. She's very much like a strong, independent woman kind of spirit, and that is very much who I am as well.
Okay. So let's talk about True Yoga and Therapy just for a second. Where are you located?
I'm located on County Road 64 in Daphne.
Okay. All right. So if we look 5 years down the road and we're looking at True Yoga and Therapy now, and we're looking at Sydney and what she's doing with that organization, what do you want to see in 5 years?
I would love to grow much bigger than myself, because I think that these are services that our community really needs. That's absolutely no question about it, that we need more mental health resources in the state of Alabama as well as in this county. Even though we like to feel like we're more of an affluent county for the state of Alabama, we still have gaps. Yeah. So a big motivator for me is trying to fill those gaps with what we need. And I would love to bring more people on that have some of the same qualities that I have and a lot of leadership potential to do that.
Yeah, that's great. And I've got to ask this question because we're still in the middle of the pandemic. If you're listening to this in real time, how has that affected your business? Have you seen more people kind of reaching out and trying to deal with the stresses and that kind of thing that this COVID-19 pandemic has caused? Has that affected your own business?
Oh, no question about it. For therapy, absolutely. I've been really impressed with how people have been reaching out. We saw a rise in a lot of different issues going on because of COVID, actually, and because of also the isolation that we had to accept as part of our life.
Right.
Obviously, those have serious implications for mental health. So that side of things has been going really, really well, and I am booking up pretty quickly. So, that's encouraging, and I just wish I had more time in the day for it. On the yoga side of things, I actually did have to shut down for COVID, and that really set me back quite a bit on that side of the business. We did do some virtual classes, and I do telehealth as well. However, I'm still kind of building my community and building True Yoga to what I want it to be.
Okay, great. Let's talk about this just for a second. And I think for better or worse, and I think it's for worse, there's always been kind of a stigma attached to mental health counseling and people going to see a therapist. I think that it's ridiculous that there's a stigma attached to that, because obviously you feel a great need and you help people that need help. But why do you think that there's such a negative stigma attached to somebody saying, I'm going to see my therapist? What is that about?
So this is an interesting question, because I actually recently wrote a blog on this on my website. That stigma has been present since, historically, probably since, I don't know, the 1800s. It's not new. It's been around. It kind of comes from this association that if you have an issue, which is normal, we all have issues, things come up, that's a problem, and that's seen as weak. And then we constantly continue to perpetuate that by shaming people who seek out the help that they need. And some people even feel that way about doctors as well. It's a sad reality, but, we have all the power in the world to change it. We just have to decide to do that.
Yeah, no doubt. Great point. So before we get into kind of let's learn more about Sydney part of this episode. So double major in French and psychology. So what was why French?
Okay, so I'm not going to lie, kind of cheated a little bit on that because my dad is actually French.
That helps.
Yeah. So I started learning French from a very, very early age, like from early childhood. And so it's something that kind of came naturally to me. I continued it in high school because it was an easy foreign language for me to take. And then I went on to college. I was actually going to graduate a year early with my bachelor's in psych, and I didn't really feel quite ready to make the jump to grad school yet. So I decided to stay behind and work on French for a year.
So basically you were teaching the French courses at some point, I'm sure, because you probably spoke it better than the professors, I'm thinking, if your dad was French. Good for you. That's very cool. Have you guys traveled to France? Is his family still there?
I have. I'm sure we still have some distant family there, but I don't know. I think my grandmother is still in contact with a few people there, but I'm not really close to anyone that's there right now.
Gotcha. That's very cool. All right. A couple of questions I've got for you. And these are new because I know you said you listened to the podcast before, but you haven't heard these. Well, maybe you've heard one, but let's see. So if you moved to Sesame Street, you know Sesame Street, right?
Oh, I do.
Okay, good. Who would be your neighbor? Who would you want to be your neighbor?
Oh, man. It's been a while since I've seen that show. I would have to say Elmo because he was a leader. Like, he was a leader if I'd ever seen one,
Elmo's a strong answer. I like that. All right. If you could live in any sitcom, where would you want to live?
Ooh, that's a really hard question. That's got to be between Friends and Frasier. I loved Frasier.
I love Frasier too. That was an awesome show. Were Frasier and Niles good counselors, do you think?
I really appreciate Frasier's strongly held ethical values.
Okay. Good diplomatic answer. I like that. All right. Last one. So if you had to live without your phone or without the internet for a year, which would you choose? Or which would you give up, I guess, would be a better way to ask that.
Honestly, I would have to say the internet is what I would give up, because with my phone, at least I can still contact the people that I love and care about and that are really important to me. The internet, that's just, you do have unlimited access to all the information in the world, but I think I'd be okay with kind of taking a backseat and a break for a while.
That sounds like a good plan to me. So you have an intern here with you today. Tell me her name again. I'm sorry.
So my intern's name is Liv, and she is a high school student with the virtual school right now. Okay,
Liv. So we're going to get Liv's perspective on a couple of things here. We're going to slide the microphone over to Liv, and I'm going to ask her, since she's a up-and-coming leader. Liv, how are you?
I am well, thank you.
Good. And you had no idea that I was going to do this, did you?
Nope.
Okay, so you're welcome, by the way. So,
thanks.
All right. So, all right, I'm going to ask you the same thing that I just asked Sydney. So, no phone or no internet for now. Let's see, should I qualify this? Because I know that you'll be thinking, well, I can get on like Instagram and that kind of thing with my phone because of the cell service and that kind of thing. But I'm not going to let you get to Instagram or Facebook or Snapchat or anything like that. So you either got your phone where you can text and call, or you got the internet where you can get on your social media, but you can't text and can't talk to somebody. So what do you give up for a year?
I would have to choose. Well, in reality, I really pick both because I think as a teenager right now, both phones and the internet are very harmful to not only me, but like my friends and peers.
Yeah.
So I'd really choose both.
I did not expect that.
I didn't either.
So,
all right, so let me ask you this. Then if you had to use one social media platform as your exclusive platform for a year, would it be Facebook, Snapchat, or Instagram?
definitely not Facebook.
Okay.
That's not really my generation's thing. I don't even have Facebook. I'd probably pick Instagram. Definitely just because I like sharing pictures more than like texting people, or I'm also a model. So I think Instagram is the best platform for me personally.
I got you. Okay. Well, I was thinking Snapchat, but see, I learned something new. Let me let me add two more to you.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
All right. So what if I made you choose between, you don't have Facebook, so Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter, or TikTok? There we go. Covered all the bases that time.
You know, it'd still be Instagram. I really don't like TikTok that much because I think TikTok can be also very toxic to mental health for kids my age, because there's a lot of filters on there, like beauty filters, just making you seem more perfect than you actually are. And I really don't believe that that's very ethical for adolescents and their brains developing, because it creates a false persona of like everyone around you, and you hold them to a higher standard. And
Sydney, you should be proud because Liv has nailed it on some of this stuff here.
Thank you.
One last question for you. You're in high school, and as we were talking before, the pandemic has upended everyone's lives. And so you were at Daphne, is that correct?
Yes.
Before? Okay, so you were in school at Daphne last year. Now you're doing the virtual school that Baldwin County has started. So what are your feelings on that? I mean, how is this pandemic kind of, I know has affected your life, but I mean, what are your feelings as far as how your life has been changed and what you're having to give up and change and that kind of thing as far as you personally?
I've really felt more at home, literally, at a virtual school, because I feel like public school, you're very set on a specific path. I like to work on my own time, either if that's fast-paced, slow-paced, whatever. I really think that virtual school is a benefit for many students that don't enjoy going to public school or any school that is like, there's a lot of people, and especially during the pandemic, because it's not very safe for teachers and students and faculty. And I think virtual school is just the way to go for now, personally for me. And because I love to travel so much, I think virtual school is definitely where I would choose to go over any other public school.
Very good. Great insight. Well, Liv, thanks a lot.
Yeah, thank you.
Sydney, you got your good one.
I know. She's amazing, and she keeps me hip and up with the trends, too. She's my social media consultant.
There you go. Always good to have. Well, Sydney, thanks a lot for coming. This has been enjoyable. I appreciate your insight. If people would like to learn more about True Yoga and Therapy, where would they go to find out?
So I have tons of information available on my website, which is trueyogatherapy.com, all one word. I also have my blog page up there, which I'm posting tons of information about all the time.
Great. Thanks a lot. We hope you enjoyed today's episode, and if you did, be sure to rate, review, and subscribe on iTunes and Spotify. It definitely helps us in the ratings, and it also makes it easier for other folks to find the podcast. And as always, a big thank you to producer and editor Carrie Wolf. Playing Above the Line is sponsored by Aviso Group. If you want to know more about who we are and what we do, you can visit our website at avisogroup.com. That's AVIZO group.com. You can also check us out on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Thanks for listening.